and welcome to this video. So today I'm going to be installing a rear view camera, which is in this box here, in my W204 facelift C180 or C-Class. Now this tutorial is specifically for cars that have the Audio 20 system. So if you've got the command system, all you need is this camera unit and a special type of cable called a FACRA cable, which enables you to connect this to your infotainment system. However, my car has the Audio 20 system. It doesn't have the full-on Mercedes command system. So I'm also going to need one of these. Now in here is a video interface box. This converts the AV analog video data from this camera to a digital format that the infotainment system can recognize, and then also switches to the camera feed when you go in reverse gear. So it's pretty useful, and obviously you need it if you only have the Audio 20 system. So this tutorial is going to be for, as I said, for the facelift W204. If you're on a pre-facelift W204, then there are plenty of other tutorials you can watch. Alright, so let's get started with everything you need. So first of all, obviously the video interface box, and I'll open these in just a second. The camera, some kind of connector. Now this is going to be for connecting the cables up. You could just solder the cables, you don't have to use these kind of connectors, but I just find this a lot easier. If I just show you close up at these posi-lock connectors, one wire goes there, one wire goes in there, and then you just close these up. So they make a firm connection, a good reliable connection, and they're really easy to work with. Alright, the next thing we're going to need is Tessa tape, and make sure you use this instead of electrical tape. And then we're also going to need some kind of toolkit. So there are certain types of screws or Torx screws that we need to open. A simple toolkit like this will do the job just fine. And then finally you need something like this. So it's basically just, see, it's just got a long end here, and then it has some sort of clip on the end, or not a clip, just a curved surface or whatever. And you can use this to open certain parts of the front panel on the dashboard, and we have to have this in order to open up the infotainment system so that we can connect the cables from the camera and also obviously the video interface box to the back of our infotainment system. Alright, so here we have the video interface box. It's pretty big. I've already opened this before, so apologies for the mess. Now the model I have is a fairly sort of lower down cheap model. This supports 3 different video inputs, a reverse camera, front camera, and also another separate input like a DVD player or a TV tuner or whatever. But you can get more advanced versions. They cost more, but they have built-in Wi-Fi, so for example, you could share the screen on your iPhone onto the infotainment screen, and other things like that as well. But I don't care about that. I just want the reverse camera, so this will do. So I've already opened this, so apologies for the mess. In fact, let me get all this out and then I'll show you in a second. Okay, so first off, let's have a look at the actual unit itself. So it's pretty simple. It's got a few different connectors. This side it's got some switches, and it's got a few more connectors here. It's pretty simple. Oh, it's got a few buttons here if you want to switch between the menu. It's got a built-in operating system of some kind, and has a menu that you can switch through and set certain settings and so on. So I think there's a few different buttons there. Yeah, there you go. You see, up, down menu. But it's a pretty simple unit, really. It's nothing too overwhelming. It has quite a few different cables, but yeah, and you can see it supports a front camera, a back camera, and a video too, which is any other kind of AV video input of your choosing. So it could be a DVD player, TV tuner, or whatever else. But anyway, that's about it. It's pretty simple. All right, next thing is this cable. So this has one end goes into that section there. So it has a IR out, I believe that is, yeah, IR out. So for a infrared emitter, I believe that if that's actually, I'm not 100% sure what that's for, but oh well, we don't need that. Next thing, what do we have here? Let's have a look. Camera input. What about this one? Oh, this is the video 2. Okay, so basically we have three video inputs here, standard AV cables. The red one I think is the one we need, so this connects to the reverse camera, and the other two, I believe the white one is for the front camera if you want to install one, and this second one, this yellow one, is for another video input, for example a DVD player. Now it is important to note so that with these AV cables you may think these two are audio and this one's video, or whatever. I forgot what the actual combination was, but whatever way it is, these aren't standard AV cables, or this isn't a standard sort of RGB connection or just sort of composite connection. These three cables are just for video, and that's an important point, video only. So for example, if you use this cable to connect to DVD player, you're going to need to use a separate cable to provide the audio input. These are video only, so that's important to note. But if you're like me and you only want to install the reverse camera, does the job, and you don't need audio for that anyway, so that's fine. Okay, next thing is this switch. So this connects, whereabouts does this connect? Yeah, this connects here, and it's just a long cable, and it's got a switch here, and some sticky 3M tape there, and it allows you to switch between the menus on this system. But if I'm to be honest, I don't think you actually need this, because this works with the standard controls built into your car. You know, the little scroll wheel. So you don't really need this cable, but we will just test it out just in case. All right, next thing is this massive freaking cable here. So, blimey, where do we start with this? Look at these humongous connectors. So I believe, which way is it? Well, we'll have to see during the installation, but one side plugs into the back of your infotainment system, the other side plugs into, well, you take the cable out of your infotainment system and this plugs into that. So this sort of intercepts it. And then it's got another cable. Whereabouts is the other cable? Oh, here it is. It's got another cable here, and this then plugs into your video interface box. And finally, it's got two cables here for audio. These are audio inputs. These work with the older infotainment systems, so probably for pre-facelift W204 models. I don't think we're going to need those today. Then you also get this. This is a CAN box. This detects when the car is in reverse, as far as I understand it. It connects to the video interface box. And it also has these cables. Now these cables provide the power to our camera. So if you have a good look at this label, the green one provides the 12-volt output for our reverse camera. The black is ground, and the other two we don't need. In fact, we only need the green one. We're not going to use the black. Now I know the black is ground, and we could use it to ground our camera, but we're not going to do that. We're going to use the grounding point at the back of the car. So the only cable we're going to use here is the, which one was it? Oh yeah, the green cable. So this one. This will provide the 12-volt power for our camera. And I believe here it's got some fuses. I think these are fuses. I think so. So that's pretty cool. So this plugs into your video interface unit and of course your camera. All right, so the next thing we get is this cable. So this again plugs into your video interface unit via this cable. And then it's got two cables here. So one cable connects into the back of the screen, the infotainment screen, and the other cable here, well basically there's a power cable or a data cable that goes to the back of your screen. You disconnect that, connect in here, and then connect this to the back of your screen. Now what on earth is this for? Well basically when this unit, or this unit here, whatever, detects that your car is in reverse gear, it wants to display the camera. So what it does is this sort of intercepts the connection between the the infotainment system and the screen. And once this detects that you're in reverse gear, it cuts the signal from your infotainment system and then displays the signal from your camera. And then yeah, it can display that. It can display all that on the screen with this cable here. All right, and that's basically everything. So we've got quite a few different cables here. We've got quite a few different things to install, but it is fairly simple. If this is your first time attempting an install like this or a mod like this, whatever, don't be daunted by it or alarmed or anything. All this is fairly simple. It's actually pretty plug and play. You can't connect the wrong cable into the wrong area here, because into the wrong connections or ports, because everything is color coded and everything has a special proprietary port. So you're not going to be connecting the wrong cable into the wrong port here or into the wrong connector on your infotainment system. It's actually pretty simple. Now, I've read through the manual, but honestly you don't need it. It's really basic. Alright, so let's open up the camera box and see what we get inside. So we've got this nice camera unit here. It plugs into a light, a number plate light at the back of your car, and once it's fully plugged in, you'll only really see about this much of the camera. So all this up here will be hidden. So it looks pretty good. This part is made out of metal, so it's got a good build quality. They fixed a cable issue that they used to have. So before when you used to purchase this product, the cable came out this center bit here, and that was a problem because once you connected this into the number plate area, there's a number plate light that has to fit through this hole here, and it couldn't fit because the cable came out of here. So a lot of people complained because they had to open these screws and reroute the cable. That's not going to be a problem for us because they fixed that. So there we go. Your standard camera looks pretty good build quality, sturdy build quality. And the cable, it's got this sort of I'm not sure if you can see that actually. It's got this sort of proprietary cable that connects the power and also provides the video output. You do get a user manual, but it's really basic. Okay, next thing is this power cable. So this connects to the camera, and I'll show you that in a second. And then this connects to the ground or neutral, and this connects to your 12-volt power input. Alright, the next thing you get is this unit. So this here plugs into the proprietary port of your camera, and then it's got two connectors here. So this provides the video output data stream, and this provides the power input for the camera. So this connects to this like so, and then you connect this to the car, and I'll show you that later on. And then of course this connects to the next cable I'm about to show you. So finally, this is the last cable you get. It's a really long extension cable. This goes from the back of the car where the camera is all the way to the front of the car, and it has two simple cables. It's got one cable which connects to the 12-volt power inputs. You don't have to use this if you want to get power from the fuse box or from the reverse light at the back of the car. You can, so you don't have to use that. But we're not going to do that. We're going to use this because we've got the video interface box, because we have the Audio 20 system, and the video interface box can provide the power for us. So we don't need to tap into a fuse. So anyway, this is the power. This is the video cable or data cable, and on the other side of the cable, you can see the same thing. Where is it? There it is. There we go, the same thing. So this side goes into the video interface unit, and that also goes into video interface unit, so data, power, and then this side, so this side connects to your camera. So coming back here, you connect this like so, and then this power cable connects to this red power cable here, and then this black cable here, you have to connect this to a ground point at the back of your car, and I'll show you that in a bit. Okay, so now onto the rear section of the car. Now we're going to be installing the camera back here, and what's going to happen is we're going to take this light, number plate light cover off. The light will remain, we're just going to take the cover off, and the camera will just slot in there. Now in order to do that, we have to take off this entire panel here and a few panels inside as well. And one thing you need to do when you move this panel out of the way is you need to take your number plate off, because it might get in the way. So that's what I've done. The number plate is held in by four simple Phillips screws, so it's pretty easy to open, and just get that out of the way first, and then we can get on to opening this section, and also obviously underneath we need to open all this section, we need to open all this, we need to open these, or this side panel, so we can get the wiring in and go from there really. So I think we should start by opening these screws here. This one, this one, this one, and there are also these plastic connectors here that you can just pry out with a screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver. We need to open those. There's probably there's some there. There's two there. Maybe there's some behind this thing, this warning triangle. So we might need to remove that as well. So basically, this whole lining here needs to come off. You know, this whole thing needs to come off so that we can access the wires. And this plastic component here needs to come off so that we can access this. Okay, so now I've opened all those screws there, and I've opened the bottom section here. Now this panel will come out. Now, one thing to note is this panel has a light in here, so when you pull this panel out, you have to unclip the wire that's connected to this light, otherwise it'll break. So I just pull out like so. There we go. Now, see, the only thing holding this whole panel in place is this wire that comes in from there. Okay, so to open this up, we just press in on a clip on this connector you see on the left hand side. You just press that inwards, and then it just pops out. One thing to note during this installation is that as you take panels and components off, it's worth putting the screws and the plastic clips next to each panel, because we're going to be taking off quite a few different things. We're going to be opening up quite a few different screws, and so it's easy to lose track of what screw goes where when you want to reassemble the car. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is to take off this sort of trunk liner here, but before we can do that, we have to take off these side panels here. You have to take these off on both sides. Okay, so just use your hook tool again, hook it in there and just pull it out. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is open this little clip here. So you can just put a flathead screwdriver in there, just push, and you see, it just comes out like that. Okay, one thing to note about this and taking off from this part, which gives you this exposed metal piece here, is that there is a small clip in here, and this piece of plastic, it goes underneath here, so when you're trying to remove this out from here, it pulls on this, so you have to pull this sort of plastic chunk out downwards, or push it downwards, and then you can pull it out. Okay, so now both sides are open. You can see the exposed wire here, and this is where we're going to be running the wire down for our camera. So it's going to come going from there, come down all the way down here, come down through there, and then go through there. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is take this lining off here. You may need to remove the warning triangle, and you take this off by simply taking these little plastic connectors off. There, where else? There's one here. No, we've already taken those ones off, so yeah, just take this off. Probably going to have to remove the warning triangle. Okay, so I've removed all those pins, all those plastic plug-in things, whatever they're called. I removed them, and now I should be able to just take this off. However, there is two things to note here. Some cars will have like an emergency escape button here, or even here, that you need to open first. Mine doesn't, by the looks of things, but mine does have a position for the warning triangle. Now we need to take this plastic bit off, and we can do that through these tabs here. Okay, so removing that center holder or mount that holds the warning triangle in place was a complete nightmare, but essentially it had a few tabs that sorted here. you had to press down tabs and you just had to pull it out. So now, last thing to do on this sort of top section here is we need to open this section up here so that we can get access to this. Then we can put the camera in and then wire it all the way from there, all the way down through here and continue on from there. Okay, so now that we've taken these two T20 screws off, we need to do one more thing to pull this panel out. T20 screw here, and we need to open this T20 screw here as well. Okay, so now that this panel here has been removed, what we can do is we can take the light off, which I have already done so on the right side, and we can put our camera in, and the camera just slots in like so. So you can see when you take the light off, see it's got this seal, this sort of rubber seal. So that makes it watertight and also gives it a firm grip. The same applies here. So you take the rubber seal off the light that you take off and you add it onto here. And so this just gives you a nice strong connection. Keeps it in place, and we can also take this tape off later, this camera cover tape thing off when we've completed the installation. So as you can see, the camera comes out from there, and that cable there is the camera cable that provides power and the video output. Now there is this section here where the light needs to go in. Now I haven't got the light, so I've gone and ordered a special light that fits into here from Mercedes, and that's going to take a while to arrive. Basically, in most countries, especially here in the UK, the number plate has to be fully lit from both sides, so just having one light here for the number plate would make it illegal, and I'm pretty sure the same goes for quite a lot of other countries out there. So when you do get your light and you attach it in, the light would shine out from the sides. Now it won't be as bright obviously as this, because this doesn't have a camera in the way, but still there will be quite a bit of light coming out from the sides. Okay, and now onto the wiring. So I brought the cable for the camera down through there, and I brought it down through here, and using Tessa tape I just taped this to the existing wire. Make sure to give it a little bit of leeway, because when you're opening and closing this boot, or later on if you need to open up the camera or something for whatever reason, then you want a little bit of leeway in the cable. Not too much, but a little bit. So that cable just comes down through there. Again, you can see I've Tessa taped parts of it just to keep it in place. More Tessa tape. More Tessa tape. More Tessa tape. And so on. Here is the connector from the camera's proprietary connector. And that connects to this cable here. So red is our power input, and this yellow one will be the video output. So we'll go ahead and get that wired up. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is connect the power. Now, as I said earlier on in the tutorial, we're going to be getting the 12 volt power input from the video interface box via the extension cable, because the extension cable has the video cable, and it also has this smaller red cable, which is the power. So that provides power, and that red cable will connect to our little proprietary DC power cable. So that will connect to this red cable, and I'm using a posi-lock connector, but most people probably won't like this solution, so you could just solder it or use or crimp it or something like that. So that's one thing. Now the other thing you need to do, however, is take care of this neutral point. Wrap this cable around this ground point here. Now in order to do that, you need to take the head bolt off that sort of screw there, off that ground point. And here it is. It's a 10 millimeter screw. You need to use one of these. I'm sorry, I don't know the name of it. I'm a beginner, so I don't know the name of any of these tools, but whatever. See, It's a 10mm socket, something or other. There we go. And this obviously just goes on there, and you just turn it anti-clockwise, and then you can just open that up. What you do is you wrap this neutral cable, preferably twice, around that ground point. And once you've done that, you just close this head bolt fairly tightly over it. Not too tightly because you don't want to break the cable, but fairly tightly. This just goes over it again. And then you've got the cable grounded, and then we can continue on with the rest of the cable. Okay, so the connection comes from the back, comes through here, and then from here it gets hidden under the sort of side carpet here. It goes through here, and here it is so far. Now there is a hole just in there, and you can push it up from there, and then coming back here, you can get the cable back in there, or you can get the cable back up here. Now, as you can see, I've positioned the video interface box and the CAN box up here. Most of the wiring is going to be happening up there, because down here, well, first of all, this quad lock connector is taking up a lot of, I mean, this will go into the back of the infotainment box, but nevertheless, the other bit there and the other wires are taking up a lot of space. And then obviously you've got the humongous infotainment system which will go in there, so there's going to be virtually no space left whatsoever. So these two boxes have to be fit in here. Now, as you can see, there's this sort of rail here, and as it just so happens, it's just about thick enough to sort of tightly, or fairly tightly, hold the video interface box and the CAN box right in place. So now all I have to do is wire it up, add Tessa tape to the connections to make sure it's all secure, run the necessary wires from down here, and it goes through that little hole over there, and you can see there's a gap there. Can you see where the wires are? It just goes up, and then run the wires up here and connect them to the video interface box and the CAN box. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is open this trim piece here. So you could use a flathead screwdriver. You should probably use a piece of plastic so that you don't scratch this, but I don't have one, so I'm just going to use this. And just go underneath here and just push it out. There are certain points which click out, so we just need to find those. Right, there we go. So you can hear that sort of clicking out. There we go. There's a few different points around here that you need to open, like so. Ah, there we go. You see, it's opening. Now, before we continue, there is a few points here, or here, somewhere here, and also here that we need to open. And to do that, we're going to use a different tool. This section here is very, very easy. This section in the middle, however, involved a lot of swearing. It took me 20-25 minutes just to get this bit here to unlock, or just to open it up. It's really very tricky, and the reason for it is that there's a clip in here and there's a clip over there, and you have to open these clips up towards the in towards this sort of center section here on either side. And once you've opened those clips up and you pushed in on them, then at the same time you need to have something else, some other tool. For example, like this sort of hook. There we go. This sort of hook tool. I've got this one here by, what the hell is this? Okay, Draper. There we go. But there are plenty of brands. You can find them on Amazon or any DIY store. And you get this tool, and you can see in here there are certain, see that? There's a certain hole there, and there's another one on this side as well. So while you have some sort of screwdriver or some sort of flathead screwdriver plugged into the clip, which is in here, pushing the clip inwards, at the same time you use a hook tool like this to pull in on this section here, and there's a section over here as well, and you have to do it at the same time. Now, I'm sorry I couldn't film that exactly because it took me ages and involved a lot of anger and a lot of swearing. But that's how you do it, and the end result is this finally comes out, and this is the end result. So you can see all these sort of clipping points. These are very, very easy to open. This one isn't quite as easy, but it does come. I think there's something over here that opens up, and then yeah, we can now open the get to the infotainment system. So this is the back of the trim piece, and you know it's fairly simple. But you see this hook here, which sort of opens and closes. This is the hook you need to get to, and from this angle it looks very, very simple, but when you're trying to open it from out here, and it's inside and you're trying to put a hook in there, it's not so easy, because first of all it's hard to get light in there. Now I've positioned this light, desk light here, but even so, when when your hand is here and you've got the tools there, it creates a lot of shadows, so it's quite hard to see what you're doing. And you have to, and the second thing is you have to pull on it with a lot of force. So when you're using this hook device, or this hook tool here, and you've got it in there and you're pulling out, you have to pull out with a lot of force. That's really important. Now I know you're probably wondering, well, isn't that going to break it? Well, yeah, I mean, you have to be careful, but you have to give it some force, because it won't come out so easily. It really won't. Let me give you a close-up of this. Okay, can you see there? There's like a little shiny metal thing to the right. Well, it's not metal, it's plastic, but it looks shiny from here anyway. That's basically where you need to get your hook tool in, or where you need to get your flathead screwdriver and push it out in towards this sort of center section here. Just push it out, and then at the same time your hook tool goes into that little hole there, and you pull out. And if you do those two things at the same time, this section will sort of unplug. And then you do the same thing for this side, and then this whole thing just pulls out. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is open this panel here that starts from this sort of passenger side, goes all the way to the driver's side, like so. As you can see, it comes here and it goes all the way up there. We need to remove that panel because we need to get to a few different screws so we can open this display, and also so we can take out this infotainment system. So the way you do that is, again, you just use a flathead Phillips screwdriver, and you just put the screwdriver underneath here and just pull out. Just pull out. Keep pulling out. Keep pulling out. Same here. And this side, same over here. And it just sort of unplugs, you know. So once that happens, you can just pull the unit out like so. There we go, there's the unit. There we go. Get a better look at this unit. You can see it gives us access to different screws over there, although we don't need to open that, but it gives us access to quite a few different things. The main thing is that we can open this screen, so there we go. Okay, and the same goes for the top panel as well. We need to open that as well. Again, same process. You just put your screwdriver, your flathead screwdriver, or your piece of plastic or whatever. You just put it in between here and you just push down. And then these clips, they just open up, you see. So then we should be able to just pull this out. Like so. There we go, and here's the part. Interesting. There you go, you see it's just held in by a bunch of different clips. The end result is as follows. Very interesting. So now we can get access to the center screen. So now there are two screws behind there and there that we need to open. So you simply slide these panels out. They literally just slide out like so. It opens up. And then you can open up this screw here, and you do the same for this side as well, so it just slides out. It's quite interesting, isn't it? When I first bought this car, I thought that underneath this panel there was a speaker or something, but Evidently not. Okay, there we go, and there's another screw in there that we need to open. So let's do that. Okay, so to open the screw in there and the screw in there, you're going to need one of these. This is a T20 Torx screwdriver. I bought it as part of this, well, it just came as part of this kit, which has the main screwdriver, or the handle or whatever, and the different heads. So this is a T20 head, and this is the only head I think we're going to need for this entire installation, to be honest. But we'll see about that. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, these are two T20 screws. I've taken the right one out already, as you can see. Here it is. It's pretty long. And there it is, T20. Open it on this side as well. Open it on that side, and then we can pull this section out. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so the next bit is we now have to remove this section here. It covers the driver's dashboard area, and it also houses the screen and the cables that connect the screen. What you need is this hook tool again. So the hook tool goes out back here, and back here above this section. You put it above here, and you pull it down, and you just pull out. Now, it did take a little bit of force, so don't be afraid to apply some force if need be. I mean, obviously you have to be careful because you don't want to break it. I mean, this is mainly just made out of plastic after all. It could crack pretty easily, but having said that, you have to apply a little bit of force to pull it out. And then when you do pull it out, be careful, because the only thing holding this in, as far as I can see now at this point, are these two cables here. So this cable is probably the data cable or something for the screen. This cable over here is the power, I think. Nevertheless, this cable seems to be fairly long, but this cable here seems to be fairly short. So if you just try and rip all this out, then you're going to snap this cable. There we go. You just press that, and this connector comes out. Nice and easy. Okay, so to remove this cable here, that cable had a pin that we could just click with our hands and it just came out. This cable is fairly simple. It's also got a pin here. Just push this bit in, or you just put the screwdriver here, and then you just push out, and it comes out like so. So now we should be able to take this whole section out, including the screen. Here we go. Wow, there we have it. So we can get to the cables we need. I'm also going to need to take out this infotainment system so we can get to the back of it, get to the cables. We've got access to the cables, oh blimey, we've got access to the cables we need for the screen. Also, just out of interest, check this out. Look at this, the driver's dashboard completely open. Pretty cool. Anyway, now let's open up the infotainment section, and we can finally start plugging in the video interface unit. Okay, so to open these screws here, you need to use the same Torx 20 screw, but the problem is this opening here is very short, so you need like an L-shaped screwdriver to open this bit, or whatever the correct tool is. Now, I don't have the correct tool, so what I'm doing is I'm using the screw with this massive thingy here, whatever that thing is called. I'm using that. Using that to open this. It is a somewhat cumbersome process. It is the incorrect tool for the job, but it does work. The only thing is you need to keep your hand back here, because if this screw falls back there, then there's no way you're getting that back, and it could be dangerous anyway, so make sure that doesn't fall. Keep your hand back there. Now we need to remove this infotainment section here, this whole box here, so that we can get to the back of it and connect the cables up. So we undid the Torx screws, which were over there and on that side, but in order, when you try and pull it out, it's still stuck in place. Now the reason for that is you need to open two clips, and the clips are sort of hidden clips. It took me ages to figure out, and I had to ask Raymond for his help. But basically, basically here, this area here is where the screw goes. Now once you open the screw, what you need to do with your screwdriver, you need to push down. So you need to push down this hole, push right away down. So the area where the screw goes all the way down. It's like a metal bit and it goes down. And when it goes down, you get this sort of empty black space here. And you need to do that for both sides. Now once you do that, this whole section here becomes loose, and then you can actually pull it out. But be aware of two things. Number one, obviously cables are connected to the back, but there's also a hidden cable connected down there, so don't pull it all the way out, otherwise you're gonna end up tearing some of these cables up, so be careful. And another thing to think about is, of course, the gear stick. So obviously, it's right here. This isn't going to work. So really, you have to put this in neutral, if not even in drive. To be honest, it has to be all the way back, which isn't helpful. Now, obviously, you'll have your handbrake or your foot brake on, and you can also just put your right foot on the brake pedal as well. But I must say, I don't feel very comfortable doing this. I think it's best it remains in park, or at least in neutral. Park is best because it also has some of the clip or something that locks on in the gearbox, so that it really can't move. But we have to move this gear stick back, otherwise we cannot remove this section out of here, and we have to remove it out in order to connect the cables. Okay, so put the ignition on. Okay, I have absolutely no idea what the hell was going on there, but anyhow, put the car into drive. So the car is in D, so we can move this stuff. Now, turn the power off. You can't turn it off all the way, or remove it, or remove the key, because that's a safety feature, because we're not in park. But no matter. Foot is on the brake, and the handbrake is also engaged, so the car is going nowhere. Alright, so now we should be able to pull this out a little more. Again, the cables are still attached, so be careful. But let's just check this out. Okay, so now that we've removed this cable, sort of hidden cable here, we should be able to pull this out. And this will also show whether we needed to put this in D or not. How far does this come out? Just look at the underside of that. Yeah, that cable is something you need to be aware of. That one right there. But otherwise, you can see we're making progress. Okay, so now that we've got this out, we really need to disconnect all these cables so that we can just completely move this out the way, and then install the video interface kit and the other wires and so on. So let us take all these cables out. Okay, so at this point, the infotainment system is very nearly out. We just need to disconnect these cables. As you can see, I've disconnected this massive one from here. And rather interestingly, there's actually a fuse back here. It's kind of cool. But anyway, you take this cable out, you see there's this bottom tab. You just open that bottom tab, and then you pull this massive block out from the bottom. And then these cables, I've plugged one out, you see. There is a tab at the top of the cable. You push that tab at the top down, and then you pull this out. Now each cable, as you can see, is color-coded, so you're not going to connect the wrong one back to the wrong port when you're finished. But even so, I would advise that you take some pictures or take a video or something at this point, just so you know which cable goes back where. And your infotainment system might be slightly different to mine. I mean, I'm not 100% sure about that, so you may have other cables going on here or something, in which case, definitely take pictures so you know what to reconnect to, what port once you're done. there's also this little gap here. Now, this plastic harness was connected in that little hole there, and that was just to keep these wires sort of tucked in neatly there. I've taken that off, or out of that hole, so that I can get to that cable there, because we need to unplug all of these cables. Okay, so having removed the infotainment system, this is what the back looks like. We've removed the screen, the center air vents and trim, and the main infotainment system. And I've put it back in park as well. While we're doing this, we'll need to put it back in drive when we want to put it all back in, because otherwise it just won't fit. But while you're just adding the video interface unit and messing around with the cables, best to leave it in park. Also, I've taken the key out, so the ignition is not on, so that this isn't powered or anything. The installation instructions for the video interface box actually say that you should disconnect the battery, but two problems with that. The first thing is, I've read a lot of horror stories online about disconnecting the battery in a Mercedes and then connecting it back and then finding that the car won't even start for whatever reasons. Certain things in the software reset and you have to do something in a special way in order to get it working again. I don't know the technical details behind it, but I've read a lot of horror stories about it. And then the second thing anyway is that once we connect the video interface box and the camera, we're going to need to test it anyway, and then you're going to have to reconnect the battery. Just be careful though, obviously, since the battery is still connected. Really, you should disconnect the battery. I'm choosing not to. I guess that's not good advice, but you have to have the battery connected when you want to test the camera anyway. Otherwise how the hell are you going to test it? So yeah. But anyway, this is what it looks like. If we go in, you can see there's not much room back there, to be honest. There's a fair bit of room back here at the top, but at the bottom down here there isn't a lot of room. Okay, so here is everything we need to connect. Obviously, as I showed you, this big connector that will connect to this massive block connector and to your infotainment system. This cable connects to the screen at the top and to the video interface box, which, as discussed, connects to the infotainment system video interface box and provides power to your camera. This cable here that can take in 3 video inputs and also provides an IR out. I'm not sure why you need that, but we don't, so whatever. And also this cable, which is a cable connected to a switch. Not really sure what the point of this is, but we'll connect it up and see if it does anything. And then of course we've got the video interface box itself. So let's connect all this up. One thing about this particular box is you notice it has a few different switches. So these switches correspond to the different functions. So putting the switch down puts it on, putting it up puts it off. So it's got 2, 3, 4 and 5 in the on position. So let's see what those are. 2 is front camera, 3 is video 2. Okay, 4 no function. What the hell is the point of that? I don't know. 5 is the back camera or the rear camera. Okay, and that was it. Okay, so we really only need front camera. I mean, we don't need, well, unless you want to install the front camera, but I'm not going to bother with that. So really all we need is 5 back camera, so the rear view camera. So that is, yeah, 5 needs to be on, 2, 3 and 4, which are front camera, video 2 and no function. What the hell is the point of that is, I don't know. Okay, well, whatever. There we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 and 8 are off and 5 is on. So that's all we need. That's just this particular video interface box. In different units you can get much more advanced versions than this anyway that have more features. This is just the weird way that this thing works. So let's start with this connection. This part of the cable, these orange wires here, are going to come out here, but they're going to get connected to this bit, this blank space here, and obviously that's useless. So what you need to do, looking at this replacement connector, it's got quite a lot of the wires already installed. However, see so like this part, the wiring's all done, blah blah blah, but this sort of top section here, it's just empty. And so if we have a look at the other one, the other side, basically, that's blank. So, well, there's not blank, but there's just nothing there. So these orange wires in this top corner were originally connected to the back of the infotainment system, and if we don't reroute these wires, then I guess we're going to end up with a few wires not being connected to the infotainment system, which is not what we want. So coming back to this end of the connector, now this goes into the back of your infotainment system, remember. So this is the end we want. So we need to transfer some of these cables in this corner here to this corner here. Now this has all the other cables and things, but it doesn't have the cables here for whatever reason. So it's literally just two cables here. There's nothing there, there's nothing there, and there's this bit here, but that's already got a connector, so we don't need to worry about that. So literally in this case, as you can see, the only thing missing from this side are these two cables here, which are these two orange cables. So we need to transfer those to here, and otherwise this has everything else covered. So alright guys, so turns out this is a lot easier. So spoken to a good YouTube friend, Raymond, and he said that there is a small tab that I can press to open this, and indeed he is correct. So at the top here there's a section here, see that, an opening. What you do is you put the flathead screwdriver here, and then you push up, and then that sort of releases a tab, and that allows you to pull these cables out. Now these cables, not to worry, because these cables, see, they come in this sort of unit. There we go. Like so. So you're not pulling the cables out individually, you're just pulling out this unit, this housing. So there we go, that way we can ensure that the cables remain intact. Because otherwise, if you had to remove the fibre optic cable one by one, you know, out of the actual socket here, I mean, I'm pretty sure at some point you'd end up damaging the fibre optic cable, and that would be that finished. You would need a whole new line of fibre optic cable going from here to wherever the hell this goes, to replace that, as it wouldn't work anymore, and that would just be disastrous. So thank goodness that this has a small sort of I don't know, sort of housing, this little case thing here. So it pops out from there, and then it will pop into our new connector. So we get this fibre optic cable, and the correct way up is this blue. See, both sides have a blue tag, but the smaller blue tag has to be next to the top left side of this big connector. And so that just goes in this section here, so like so. Can you see that? Sorry that my hands are in the way, but there's not much I can do about that. Okay, it just goes in like that. There we go, and it just slots in, and the way you know that it's connected properly is that it has a very faint sort of click sound, but once it clicks in, you see, you can't just pull it out, you have to use the tab up here to take it out if you need to. This cable is this cable is extremely short, so this is going to be a very tight install. My God, I think perhaps the video interface box will have to go at the top, so it may have to go here behind the screen. So this other side of this massive ass connector plugs into our original quad lock connector, like so. Open position down here. Oh my god. Okay, there we go. Okay. Bloody hell, how many blooming cables are there? Okay, fine. Oh, no. That is now connected, so I hope you saw that. We connected the quad lock connector from the car into this just ginormous kit. How the hell all this is going to fit in there, we have to see. Blooming hell. But anyway, supposedly, I mean, it must fit, otherwise, you know, who the hell designed this? The old quad lock connector goes into here. You can't see it because it's hidden in there. All those cables, all these cables, they just connect, and then this bit here, which sweeps out and comes in, this just locks it in place. Let's just make sure it's properly locked, because if this comes undone and you lose power or whatever while you're driving, then you're going to have to open all of this up again, and it's going to be a total waste of time. Oh, another thing, you see all these cables just dangling here. Make sure you keep them up front, because if they fall down into there, then that's just going to make your life even harder. And there's just another thing I've realised about this is that, well, how the hell does that even fit into there? I think, rather annoyingly, can I just sort of shove that in there? Come on. Okay, this is probably the worst installation video you'll ever see. So many blooming cables. What the hell do all these things do? I don't even know. But I'm just following the instructions. So when the infotainment system comes back, the quad lock connector of the infotainment system is going to come here. So this needs to be here. And this is a ginormous connector which won't budge at all, and has these two fibre optic leads going into it, so it makes positioning the cable just freaking impossible. This connects into the back of your screen, the infotainment screen, and this connects into the wire that is previously connected to the back of your infotainment screen. So it basically intercepts the video connection to your screen. So let's connect this to this. There we go. So that is nicely connected there. This other cable here provides power to your screen. This cable was one of the existing cables here. Of course, this end of the cable connects into your screen. We'll connect that in a bit, once we've got the infotainment system all connected up. So we may want to use some Tessa tape to just wrap these cables around or something, just so that we can manage them easily. I don't know, just so we can make it neat, whatever. I don't think that matters right now. Let's just plug it into the... then again, you may have to do it. Yeah, you're going to have to do it before you add the screen in, really. So we'll leave that like that for now and get back to the other cables. Okay, so now onto the CAN box. This detects when the car is in reverse and connects to your video interface box, and via the green wire here provides power, 12 volt power to your rear view camera. What we need to do is connect this to the video interface box and to the quad lock connector. Starting with the quad lock connector, there is a cable. This cable is already connected to the quad lock connector that they supply, so this end just plugs in like so, like so. Oh. And then from this end it's already got the wires connected in. This end connects to the front of our video interface box, like so. So now we've only got basically two wires left to connect. Green wire here has to go to the camera, and we'll use the black wire temporarily to test the camera up front here, because the black wire is ground as well. I won't connect the camera to the back of the car yet. We'll just connect it here locally and just test it out. If it works, then we can go on to wiring everything and installing the camera to the back of the car. When we install the camera to the back of the car, we're only going to use this green wire to provide 12-volt power. The black wire here can provide a ground connection, but the camera that I've bought anyway has an extension cable that provides data and power, but it does not provide a ground connection. So we're going to have to connect the ground connection of the camera to a ground point at the back of the car. The last main cable, which is this one. So this connects the camera video data feed, which is the red one for the reverse camera, to this port here. So let us connect this in here. There we go. Sort of clicks in there. Now we can, and before you say, if you're wondering whether one of these is video and the other two are left and right audio, no, not in this case. These three are literally 3 video inputs. One for reverse camera, which is the red, and then the other 2, I think the yellow is for a front camera, and the white is for some other device, like a DVD player or whatever you want to install. Okay, so we've got the camera here. I'm not going to connect it to the back of the car, as I said, because there's no point connecting it first and then turning this whole thing on and finding out that it doesn't work. You may as well just keep it here in front with you, because the video interface box can provide power for it, so it doesn't have to be at the back right now. Connect it up, test it, make sure it works, and then we'll properly wire it and connect this to the back of the car. The proprietary port connects to this other cable it comes with. It connects to the camera. This is for power input for the camera, and this is the video output. Now, these proprietary connectors have a little arrow on them. Can you see that? Tiny, tiny arrow on there and on here. Okay, there we go. Oh no, that's not an arrow. What is that? Oh, there it is. There it is. Can you see that? Yeah. So you have to align these correctly, and you see there's a little groove in this cable. So align that groove basically with the little indent at the bottom there. I guess you could wrap this with Tessa tape just to make sure the connection is firm. So this cable provides the power, so connect that to our red. And this power cable has 2 ends, the red and the black-red power. Black is ground or neutral or whatever. Back to the camera, connect to the power. We need to connect the data. The AV data cable. So the camera comes with this humongous extension cable, which goes from the back of your car to the front. Extension cable also has a power cable, but we're not going to bother that right now because we have all the power we need. So connect the extension cable to your camera video output, and then the other end of the extension cable needs to be connected, red connector here. Again, we're going to disconnect all of this in a second, well, these particular cables, because we're going to have to route these cables. So yeah, but whatever, just for testing. Okay. So the camera is connected. It's all connected now. Before we begin the final testing, I'm obviously not going to put the video interface box and the CAN box and so on in there, because I just want to test this with the infotainment system. So what I'm going to do is, I've put all the wiring from down here through there up to here, so I can connect it to these 2 boxes, and the remainder of the wiring that has to remain here, like the wiring that came with the car, you know, and of course the quad lock connector, this is going to have to stay here, but everything else is wired through this side. It goes over there, comes out there, and it will be connected to the boxes like so. So that way we can try and open up as much space down here as possible. Now, the infotainment system is a very big box, so these quad lock connectors and this massive wire, we're gonna have to find a way to push it down in there. See, now this piece of fabric back here does go backwards a little bit. In fact, you can open it. There is a little bit of room behind it, so you can try and push these wires behind there. And as for these wires, well, these wires and this quad lock connector here all connect to the back of the infotainment system, so they should be fine. The only thing we really need room for is the bulk of this wire and this other quad lock connector here. So now that quad lock connector is out of the way, we can basically connect these things to the back of our infotainment system and then just push back. And as we push back, we may have to try and push that big quad lock connector wire. We may have to push it back or sort of tuck it into the sides or something like that. The reason you can't do that now is that if you do that now, this quad lock connector will go all the way to the back. If it goes to the back, then you can't connect it to this, so this has to be at the front right now, along with all these other cables and this cable, which is very important. Connect these to the infotainment system, and then we should be good to go. One thing regarding this cable, actually, I believe this cable, it connects to this panel here. It connects to a small connector here at the front, and I believe it controls these buttons here. So that's very important that you don't forget that little cable there. So I think the best idea is to start with these connectors, then this one, and perhaps this one, or perhaps you can start with this small one here, then move to these ones here, and then leave the quad lock connector last, because the quad lock connector is a really thick wire. It's got lots of wires inside, and it doesn't really move very easily. So if you connect this first, you'll be sort of stuck at an angle like this, and I think that will make the installation harder. So it's probably easier to start with these, or actually, yeah, start with this one here, which is with this red wire, and then we can make our way across. This is probably going to be the most tricky part of the installation, getting this blooming box in. Let's do this yellow one first. So these just slot in very nicely. So there we go. Okay, and they just click in place, so you'll know when it's properly connected. Okay, and now the tricky bit, the quad lock connector, and then well, actually connecting it isn't that hard. It's just getting all this blooming stuff to fit in. It's quite a lot. If you've got a car with the command system, then you won't need any of this video interface box or any of this quad lock connector nonsense. You'll just have a cable, probably somewhere here, called a factory cable, that just plugs in here. It's a small cable, and on the other end of the cable, so it's got one of these ends basically, and on the other end it's got a simple AV port where you can connect the camera, and that's it. But unfortunately for cars with the Audio 20 system, you're going to need to faff around with all this stuff. Okay, anyway, the quad lock connectors. So don't forget to plug in your fiber optic cable if you haven't done so already. Just slots in at the top, and be very careful of that. If that breaks, I mean, you're screwed basically. Right, so can you see that? That is all connected now, including the wire over here. Not sure if you can see that. Yeah, there you go. What I'm going to do is connect this screen up here temporarily, just to test all this, because there's no point fitting all this, screwing it all in, turning the car on, and then finding out that none of it works. So let's, while we're here, let's test this. And remember, you have to have the infotainment system plugged in to test it. I tried testing it without the infotainment system and just with the video interface box, and it didn't work. So for this testing only phase, we're not gonna shove this in here or anything, but I'm on the testing phase now. So I'm not going to plug in, well, I'm not going to connect the screen properly. I'm just going to hold it in place in my hand. I've connected the two wires, the power and the signal, to the screen. And now we're going to test to make sure this works. So long as the test works, then we can fit all this in properly. Okay, right foot on the brake. And alrighty, can you see that? So we are in reverse mode. Yeah, I think you can see that, can't you? Yeah, you can see that. So we are in reverse mode, and this is the view I have. Apologies for this terrible view. You may be thinking, why can't you see the ground? Why can't you see the floor? It's because my boot lid is actually currently open, so the camera is positioned, is sort of pointing upwards right now, and it's sort of facing the ceiling. And also the camera right now has a small plastic cover on it, so that's why you have this sort of horrible hazy image right now. But once I take the plastic cover off and I close the boot lid, then we'll see a better image. But anyway, you can see it works. I think it's turned off now, but it's probably because we're in the battery only mode. Yeah, there we go. So you can see it works. So foot on the brake, let's put it in neutral. See, it goes back to the standard screen, or the standard Mercedes operating system. Put it in reverse again. Boom, looks good. And let's just put it in park now. Now there was this proprietary button that it came with that I connected. I'm going to find out what this button does. So can you see this? Yeah, there you go. This button with the 3M tape on the back. So what this does is it changes the video signal. I see, fascinating. Alright, well, that's good enough. Put it back in park, and let's turn it off. Alright, so now we know it all works. We can disconnect the screen here, just so we can place it on the floor, and then try and push this infotainment system in properly, and then we can get onto the screen, and that should be it. That should be the installation complete. So let's get on with it. I had to take the infotainment system out again, rather annoyingly, really. So we don't really want the quad lock connector to be at the back. We want it to be under the infotainment system, not behind it, underneath it. And this is the only way I can see us being able to do that. I finally got there, but yeah, space is certainly a luxury. You have to be very, very careful in the back of all the cables, and especially the fibre optic cable, obviously. You don't have much room. Well, in fact, you've got very little room whatsoever. So it takes a lot of effort to try and get all the cables in the exact position, and then get them to stay there whilst you then reconnect the cables to the back of the infotainment system, and then push it back in. But nevertheless, just follow what I said. Make sure all the cables are below this infotainment system, not behind it, below it. Okay, and then keep them nice and flush to the surface. As long as you do that, you can then just push this in nicely, and it should just about fit. That isn't too bad. Actually, no. I mean, it is like the factory spec. You see, it's nice and flush. No, it is flush to the surface, so it's okay. Okay, so the next section is also kind of tricky. So when we open this infotainment system, we had to open 2 Torx 20 screws on either side. Now the metal holders that hold the screw in place had to be pushed downwards on either side in order to open a particular clip in here, which would allow us to pull the infotainment system out. Now that we've pushed it in, we need to push the holders, the metal holders, the clips that hold the screws in place. We need to push them back up on either side, and you can't do that until you've put the infotainment system back in, because if you put this before you put this back in, then you won't be able to hold this in, because they also have certain clips which hold the infotainment system in place. You make sure that the infotainment system is tucked in nicely, it's flush with the surface, and then you come here, you get your hook and you just put it in here, and then you pull upwards. Now I've already done that, but I may need to do it a little bit more just to push it right up, and you need to do that on both sides. This side's a bit better, but still not quite there yet. Okay, so the screws are now nicely in place on both sides. Good, that's all working. Anyway, now it's time to install all that in here, and then of course put the screen back in, and then yeah, then we'll basically be done. Okay, so now that all that's in there, we can put the screen back in. So yeah, just put it in there, and we should be good to go. Alright, so there we go, there is what it looks like behind there. Just connected the screen, the power, and the data, the video data cable. Okay, so just had to rearrange that a little bit. So you can see in there, boxes there, CAN boxes there. So we're going to connect this, test this. As long as it works, then I'll put the screen back in properly. I just had a little bit of extra tape here just to make sure this connection is secure. That's a pretty shoddy tape job, but whatever, it does the job. So anyway, that should fit in there nicely. So before, this video interface box came up to about here, and it wasn't fitting properly when I put the screen back, but now it's all the way back, so it should fit. Right, so now we want to put this screen / dash cover unit in. Now this is kind of important how you do this, because otherwise it won't click in properly. So you have to click in this left side and all the bottom tabs. So for example, this bottom tab there, this one here, and this one here, into the various different bottom tabs. And you have to do this left side as well, first of all. So first left, then the bottoms tabs, and then the top tabs. And it's important you do it in that order. I just find that, well, I've been trying a few different attempts, and every single attempt has failed. So, but when I tried putting the bottom tabs in first, that seemed to work. So I think it's important, but it's important not to leave this leftmost tab to last. In fact, this has to be first. If you don't do that first, forget it. Okay, here we have the finished product. You can see it's pretty flush with the surface. All the tabs are clicked in. There we go. You can see all that. And the way you can tell that that you've done this properly, especially on the sort of driver dashboard area, is just have a look at the area where this sort of circular cover meets the glass. There should be no space, or very little space, but really no space between the two. We can check on this one. We can check on the rev counter. You know, can you see that? It's nice and flush. It's nice and clicked in. And there's one of the tabs there. You see it's clicked in. And the three tabs at the top there, all clicked in. Just press every tab to make sure it's all properly clicked in. And of course the side tab there is clicked in nicely as well. Insert 2 Torx 20 screws there and there. Okay, so now that the Torx screws have been put in place, we can put the top cover in. Then we're going to put the cover for this left side and the cover for the right side, and then finally the cover at the bottom there. And then we'll be done with this section, and then we'll just have to put the AC / trim section here, and then we'll be done. Okay, so there you can see the panel has been put in very nicely. There we go. Again, it's flush with the surface, so you know it's clicked in properly, and it literally just clicks in. It's pretty easy. You can't really mess it up. There's no screws. Okay, so the bottom panel is in here nicely, and also makes wait for the little circular dial there that changes the light in the driver dashboard. And there we go, so it's all nicely flush with the surface. It's connected. If you're wondering about that gap there, that's always been there. I've noticed that on other W204 models, not just mine, so it's not broken, that's just the way it's meant to be. The two cover panels here, so you just do this, and then you should be able to just slide it on. There we go. Beautiful, just slides on, and now for the other side. Just make sure it's connected in. Very nice. Okay. I may need to clean my screen. Alright, that's looking good. So finally, just got to add the AC/trim unit here, and then we're done. Alright, there we go. So I just push this panel like so. Push this trim piece in all the way. Click here, and this is what it looks like. Again, flush with the surface. Very nice. So there we have it. I think we're complete. So let's put this in reverse. You can see the camera comes on, and you can see the parking sensors here as well. So that's pretty cool. So let's just try and reverse into this space right behind us. Alrighty. Just a little bit more, not too much. Oh, there we go. And I think that's good enough. We can park back into a space very easily. It's very useful. And if we put this back in neutral, you see it goes back to the main screen. Now, one thing is that you need to have this infotainment screen on. If you turn it off, and if I just put it in reverse, you see it won't come on. So we need to make sure the screen is always on, and then you see it comes on. As long as you leave the screen on, you know, put it in neutral, put it back in reverse, and you can see that the camera is working very nicely. So I guess let's try that one more time. Okay. Just a little bit more. Okay, I think that's good enough. There you go. So you can see it works very nicely. It's very easy to use. It's not exactly HD, but obviously that wasn't quoted in the tech specs of this specific camera, and nor is this screen HD anyway, so it would be pointless getting a HD camera anyway. But it's good enough, and you can see the driving lines as well. They work very nicely. So yeah, thanks for watching. Alright, there we have it, guys. We've got the reverse camera installed into our car. But just before I end the video, I'd like to reach out to a good friend of mine on YouTube called Raymond. He has his own YouTube channel, and I'll put a link in the description for you to go and check that out. But he's got some fantastic videos. I wouldn't have been able to even attempt this installation without watching his videos, and also messaging him and asking for his advice on certain things. So definitely go and check out his channel if you haven't seen it already. He's got some fantastic modification, upgrade, and so on, types of videos, tutorials, things like that. So please go and check him out. So yeah, thanks for watching.